Hello, my friends. My name is Sandy, and I'm with Stampin' Up. And this project is my Seaside Wishes 4-page project. So the Seaside Wishes is absolutely beautiful. It is stamps, so you can get just the stamps if you want just the stamps. There's die cuts and an embossing folder. And the die cuts and embossing folder come together because this die fits right inside here and actually cuts out and creates some shapes for you. So I've already gone ahead and cut these out, but they've got embossing on them because they ran through the embossing folder and the die cut together. So those are already in your kit. If you've got one of my kits, let's walk through what you get. So here it tells you what stamps or what paper I used, the stamps I used. You will need the Seaside Wishes stamps in order to complete this project. If you don't have it, and aren't interested in purchasing it, you can come over to my house and use mine. But it's a beautiful set, and I really think everybody should have it. That's just me. All right. So what do you get? You get a bag full of die cuts that I went through and cut out for you. Several of those will be stamping. You've got a sheet of these gorgeous pearl, and they're kind of a funny shape, but I love that because it goes perfectly with, let me bring up this sample here, how those stones look. It just ties in really nice, I think. So then we have in your kit two different projects. We've got gray bases and cream colored bases and all the papers that you need. And in the back, there are sheets of white that if you don't know what photos you want to use, you can use the whites to do your place photo here selection. Want you to set aside all of the little images and die cuts and the white pages. We just want the two gray pages and the pieces on top of it. And the first technique I want to show you is these two pieces right here are embossed. So I'm going to grab my Toffee ink and I'm just going to add some color on top of them. Because they're embossed, I want the part that's embossed to pop up. And when I rub the ink over top of that, it picks up the raised surfaces so that now you can see that there's a sand dollar here, a little bit of a sand dollar there, a little sand dollar there, and it picks up all that sand from the embossing folder. And then make sure you just clean your surface. So let's go ahead and start building our first page. This piece is going to go the same distance top and bottom from the left-hand side. So that's 1/4 of an inch in and over and down. And then we're going to take that piece that we just added the ink to, and that will go right next to that. And then this little brown piece is going to go right next to that. So it builds really easy. We've just got some technique-y stuff we're going to work on. All right, so 2 photo mats on this one. We've got a 4x6. So the well is actually 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, so that a 4x6 picture will fit perfectly right in that spot. And then we've got a 4x4, so the photo well is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 again, so that you just have that little frame all the way around there. Now we're going to grab our stamps and do some stamping. I used Pebble ink, and the only stamp that I used is this little guy right here. So if we take our Pebble ink, oh, and let me just flip my mat over so that I've got the soft side of the mat. All right, let me lift this up just a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm inking and stamping, and then each time I stamp it, I'm going to quarter or turn it halfway. So I'm going to stamp it, and then I'm going to turn it so that the rocks, when they are next to each other don't look like it's the same stamp over and over again because it's been turned around. And you can change the distance between them, like these are a little bit closer together where these are further apart. It's all, you know, it's the sand, it's along the beach, so it's going to look natural. And then we're going to run these right along the side there. And depending on your spacing, I can fit 4 pretty good right in there. But if you need to, just use, you know, a mask so that it doesn't extend beyond there. And then with Mocha ink, and the inks that I'm using are the Close to My Heart inks because that's what I have. But obviously the Stampin' Up! Inks, the colors are very, very similar to Close to My Heart colors. So I think it's an easy transition to figure out which colors to be using. All right, I am going to use crystal blue, but really any blue at this point. And what I'm going to do is just push my lid down so that the ink transfers over here. And then I'm going to use a water brush, just get the color out of there, whatever was in there before. So I'm going to just pull a little color, and then I'm going to do some splattering. So when I pull that up close, you can see just a little bit of watercolor splatters along the edge of that paper. And we are actually, before we add anything else to this, we're going to assemble this side of the pages as well so that we can do that same technique. So this one started the same way the other one did. We've got the blue piece and then our embossed strip and then this strip. And then I went through and added that stamp. And now I'm going to add my photo well for the 4x6. Bring that down just a little bit. And then the 3x4 goes in this open space down here. And the 4x4 I'm putting over here underneath the 4x6. So it's underneath here and kind of lined up with the 3x4. Okay, and now we're going to do a little bit of that splattering up in this area as well. A little more water going for that. Okay, and then I did one more row of these pebbles. And again, depending on how you space it, I can pretty much get 4 across there. But if it goes beyond, you might want to grab a little mat to help mask that. Okay, now we're going to get that little bag that has all the goodies in it, and we're going to get these pieces stamped. So I'm going to start with my smallest shell, and that one kind of has a flat surface on it. I'm using the crystal blue or whatever color makes you happy. And that lines up right on there. And then I'm just going to clean that stamp. And then in Toffee, I'm going to do it on the tan colored shell. So that lines up right like that. Next, we're going to take the bigger shell, and I'll start with my Toffee. And with this one, there's a little rounded arch. I think that rounded spot is the easiest place to line up that particular one. So we've got one of those and one of these. All right, so 1, 2 of those. And then before I switch to the blue to do the next one, I'm actually doing this larger shell on the medium cut sand dollar. And it's just kind of going in the middle there. So that one goes all the way to the edge. Now I'm going to clean it and we're going to switch over to our blue again. And this one lines up just right. And then with this other one, again, with that medium shape, you just want to be on your scrap paper. So that that rim doesn't end up on your working surface. Next, let's stamp our starfish. On the bigger one, there's one of the little spouts there, one of his legs that kind of has a little bend to it. So that little bend is the one you want to pay attention to when you're lining up this guy. And I'm doing peach on peach, so it's really, really light. You can barely even see that it's on there. You could use the papaya if you wanted it to show up a little bit more, or whatever colors again that you're using. All right, and then I've got papaya that I'm using on the darker ones. All right, so there's those. And then we've got our little starfish. And I'm just going to do the same thing that I did. This one, you really got to keep kind of, I lined them up so that once I get it, I've got it. But you got to kind of pivot it around. I haven't found oh, that's how I can figure out which way this one goes. Not yet. All right, and then okay. So that should be all the stamping we need for this page. Let me just set all my little pieces aside so we can bring everything back. We're going to put our green pieces down first. So this one just kind of goes up there in the corner. And then this other one is going to tuck behind this photo well. I'm actually going to just rip off the stem because the whole thing sticks behind there. And I want this one leaf here to kind of curl up to the front of the picture. So I'm going to angle it just a little bit extra. And you may have to move it over a little bit depending on how close you are to the edge of your page. Excuse me. All right. So we've got these brown sand dollars. What I did to make them a little peachy is I used the papaya ink and just pulled a little color into the center of those. Just a little extra, you know, sometimes you just need a little extra. That's who I am. I'm just a little extra. All right, so that gives us a little color there. And then you can use foam tape if you want, you know, these shells to kind of pop up, or you can just use regular adhesive. You decide which way you want to go with yours. There we go. All right, so I want a little shell here, and then I want one of the big shells up here and slightly overlapping the picture. Then our big blue shell, oh, that's the medium. The medium blue shell is going here. Then we've got these fun little shapes. You may have to use your piercing tool and just get, if you've got any of those little doodads stuck in there, get those out. And then with this, you don't need a lot of adhesive. There's part of it that tucks behind, so I put most of my adhesive kind of down in here with a little bit right in the center. And then if you'd like, you can just add extra adhesive under here, because that will help hold that one right in place. And then two, we need a big starfish. I'm going to put this one on top instead of underneath our, and then two little guys. One that's going to tuck down here, and then one that's going to fill in the space. Ooh. Slippery sucker. Right here. All right, and then the only thing we have left to finish off this page is a little bit of bling. So grab your strip of bling, and I did a big one and two little ones on this one. And that page is done. Again, if you want, you can add those photo mats. I'm going to leave this one without because you really can tell where the photos go. And let's move on to our other page. So again, with this one, I'm going to start with my green pieces. This one I have just barely touching the brown on this side. And then this one, we kind of want to overlap all of these pieces with the stem coming right up at an angle there. And then let's see, let's do this guy here, right in the corner. And we've got the big one that you can put above or below that, you decide. Our little starfish is going to go up here. Then for our cluster down here, we've got our blue, this guy here, our starfish, and then the big shell to finish that off. And then grab your gems. We've got 4 on this side, a big one, 2 little ones up here. And then I put another little one right down here. And that page is done. Let's move on to our next one. All right, so this one we're going to start. You want to be on a surface where you can get ink off the edge because we're going to use a blending brush. I'm using Toffee on this particular one, but over here I used Shortbread. Honestly, whatever kind of light tan you have in your stash is what you want to use for this. Just kind of creating a soft background for our shells to sit on. So as much or as little of this as you want to do. And then the other thing we're going to do with this is like we did before, we're going to give a little press. And with my water brush, just switch colors because I had blue in it last. Don't want to mix my blue in with that. All right, so I'm adding a little bit of water, and then I'm just kind of tapping the edge of my brush and getting those splatters on there. All right, so that gives us some splatters. And then we're doing the same thing on the other page. Just switch this around. So with this one, you're doing your sponging down along here and up there. And then same thing with the splatters. So I already did the sponging on this one. I'm just going to go in and get the splatters done. Remember, as you're following along, if you need to pause your video, please feel free to do so. It has been said about me that I work a little quick. So if ever you need to pause, go right ahead and do what you need to do to hop right back in and pick up where I am. Okay, so now I'm using Shortbread ink and I've got my seashells and I'm just going to put some shells kind of around. So we've got this page, and while we're doing this color, we're going to do the other page too. I find for me, I like to get all of one color done, clean the stamps, and move on to the next color if at all possible. So we've got those seashells. Let's move on to our blue shells. So for this one, I pulled my paper up to the edge of the mat. You also could get some scrap paper to put there so you don't have to worry about where it's hitting. And do another little one down in here. All right. Oh, and that one went on the mat a little bit. So let me just wipe that up. Let's switch over to our other page. And then over here, I did 3, 1, 2, 3. Next, we're going to grab, I used the peach ink for this, but if you'd rather have them stand out a little more, you can use Papaya or whatever your colors are, a little something a little bit darker to add the starfish. So that's what I'm doing next, is just going through and adding some of these fun little starfish. And again, I'm going to do that on both pages. So wherever you'd like your cute little starfishies to go, I'll put a couple of them down here. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to stamp are the little stones. There's 3 different stamps like this. It's the big one that we've already used, and then 2 little ones that have, you know, just slight variations in shape. So you use as much or a little of these, and I'm using Pebble again this time. On my samples over here, I used linen, which is a little bit lighter. Really doesn't matter which one you go with. It's just to help create this fun little background. So I'm just adding some stones here and there and everywhere. More over here. Oh, and actually that's gonna, a whole bunch of that's gonna get covered up. So it won't even matter. All right, and let's switch over to our other page. I'm just adding some more of those fun little stones. All right, and I like that. Now, flip over your mat. So we have the numbers showing. You have a total of 4 of these blue pieces. You want one of the 2 that are the same and the smaller one. And these are going to get taped down. Oh, there we go. They need to be 2 inches down from the top. So I'm just lining this, oop, wrong side. This one goes over here, 2 inches down. And the bigger one goes on this side. 2 inches down. Then we're going to take that photo well. Now, if your 3x4 pictures are more horizontal, then you can add your square like this, and then your 3x4s will go like this. Or if you think your 3x4s are going to be taller, do it this way. And I'm leaving a little space up here so I can add my words. Next, I want you to grab your 3 bluish shaded shells that are embossed and these 6 little pieces here. And this is 2-tone cardstock. So when we sand it, it's going to reveal the white core on the parts that are raised. So that we end up with this fun kind of water rushed sand dollar. Do that to all of these blue pieces. So once those are sanded, we're going to ink up these ones. So I'm going to use on the peach paper, I'm going to use peach ink. And when you rub the ink over top, just like we did in that first layout, it's then going to have that raised surface be inked. All right, so there's those ones. And then I'm going to wash my surface here because I've got peach all over everything. And let me pull in the shortbread ones. And I'm going to do the same thing to those ones. Just rubbing that ink right over top. Helps to get that fun image popped. Quick and easy little technique for you. All right, and now it's time for us to start putting all these pieces together. I'm going to stamp "You absolutely made my day" right up here on top of these pictures. And then I'm gonna start adding all of my fun little pieces. So let me just figure out where they are and get them situated. Let's start with those green pieces first. So this one's gonna tuck, I'm gonna rip off that stem again. This one's gonna go under here. Then we've got this shell on the corner. If you're using foam tape, you can go ahead and use your foam tape for that. I'm going to just kind of stick this on the corner, and I'm overlapping that picture so that that pops just a little bit, draws your eye down into that corner. Then we've got a little starfish that'll go over here. We want our biggest peach shell. That one is going to, I'm going to actually hang it off the edge, and then I'll just use some of my, or use my scissors to trim off the edge before we go final on this. Then I've got this one that I'm going to overlap these pictures with, making sure there's no glue there so I can still slide that picture underneath later. And then this one I'm going to put extra on so that it can help hold all that stuff together for me. Then a little starfish or a big starfish up in this corner. And then we've got these two little seagrass things. I'm going to put one of them toward the front of this. And then this one, the longer one, I'm going to slide behind, and then actually have it kind of come across the front of this leaf here. That helps hold that leaf in place and kind of helps complete this whole little cluster. Then again, just a pair of scissors to trim off that edge. And let me grab my gems. I've got two small ones down here. Then one small one and a big and a small up top here. And that finishes that page. Let's move on to our last one. Starting the same way, where we're starting with these papers 2 inches down from the top. 2 inches down. And then we've got our photo placement. That is a 1/2 inch from the top and a 1/2 inch from the bottom. And you decide, you know, I'm going to just line it right up to this blue piece here, but you could slide it a little bit either way. You've got a little bit of room there. All right, and then let's grab our green first, make it glue on those and tape those down. And I did keep most of the glue with these toward the center so I could still slide things up and around in there. And then we're going to take these next 4 little guys, 2, 3, 4, and get those put on there. So we've got those 4 pieces on. Next, we're going to add our coral right in here. And then we've got our biggest shell. I'm going to kind of cover up the bottom of where that seagrass is coming through. We've got our medium brown one. It's going to just slightly overlap that picture. And then our smallest pink needs to cover up the bottoms of these few seagrass up here. Big starfish, let me just tuck his leg behind there. Then up here, we've got this shell that's going to overlap the picture. The brown one goes underneath there. I'm going to pull that so that it's right along the edge, but you could cut it off like we did on the other page. And then this one is going to go right there. We've got our starfish here. And then let's place our last 4 gems, big and little, over here, and 2 little right in here. I hope that you enjoyed these pages. the Seaside Wishes, pardon my loudness, my Seaside Wishes 4-page workshop was really fun to create. And I super love all these products. Please comment. I'd love to hear what you think.